The distress beacon had been screaming for 6 days. Not fading. Not breaking. Screaming. Captain Ethan Ward stood motionless at the command deck, eyes locked on the pulsing red signal projected above the console. Out here, in the silent stretch between mapped systems, signals didn't last that long. Power failed. Ships drifted. Crews died. But this one endured. Like it wanted to be found. Still broadcasting, said Lucas Hale from the pilot's chair, his voice quieter than usual. No fluctuation in amplitude. No degradation in pattern. It's stable. Ethan didn't respond. Stable meant powered. Powered meant active systems. Active systems meant crew? Ethan asked. Lucas shook his head slowly. No confirmed life signs. Not anymore. At least, not from this distance. A long silence stretched between them, filled only by the rhythmic pulse of the distress call. Then Lucas leaned back, exhaling. You recognize the registry? Ethan already did. But he said it anyway. The Virex Hauler. The name hung in the air like a curse. Lucas let out a humorless chuckle. Yeah. Thought so. Every pilot knew that ship. Not because it was important. Because it was wrong. The Virex Hauler had disappeared nearly a year ago, deep along a trade route. No wreckage. No debris. No final transmission. Just gone. Until 3 months later. It reappeared. Broadcasting the same distress signal. A salvage crew responded. They docked. And then? Nothing. No return transmission. No debris. No survivors. Just silence. Then the ship vanished again. Only to reappear, again. Always broadcasting. Always waiting. Always taking. Lucas rubbed his face. We should leave. Ethan's jaw tightened slightly. Protocol says we investigate distress signals. Protocol also says don't board ships that eat entire crews without explanation. Ethan didn't smile. Because Lucas wasn't joking. He stepped closer to the console, bringing up the signal analysis. Beneath the repeating automated distress loop, something else flickered, irregular, distorted, almost buried. Play that layer again, Ethan said. Lucas hesitated. You already heard it. Play it. A pause. Then Lucas tapped the command. Static filled the cabin, low, crackling, endless. Then it came. A voice. Faint. Broken. Looping. It's still hungry. The words dissolved back into static. Neither of them spoke for several seconds. Lucas finally broke the silence. That's not part of any standard distress protocol. No, Ethan said quietly. It's not. It's still hungry. The voice didn't sound automated. It sounded human. And worse. It sounded recent. Lucas turned slowly in his chair. Captain, think about this. That message hasn't degraded. That means whatever recorded it is still powered, Ethan finished. And if it's powered, Lucas said, then something on that ship is maintaining it. Ethan didn't answer. Because that was the problem. Ships didn't maintain themselves for months, not without intervention. Not without someone, or something, keeping them alive. The Virex Hauler drifted into visual range. It looked intact. Too intact. No hull breaches. No visible damage. Just a massive cargo vessel, floating in the void like it had simply stopped moving and forgotten why. Docking ports are responding, Lucas said slowly. They're open. Ethan frowned. Open? Yeah. Like it's expecting us. That word again. Expecting. Ethan felt a cold weight settle in his chest. This wasn't a rescue. This wasn't salvage. This felt like an invitation. Lucas stood up abruptly. No. I'm saying it out loud now. This is a bad idea. Every crew that boarded that thing disappeared. No signals, no escape pods, nothing. They just gone. Ethan finally looked at him. I know. Then why are we still here? Lucas demanded. Ethan glanced back at the signal. Still pulsing. Still calling. Still waiting. Because if there was even a chance. One survivor. One person trapped on that ship for months. He couldn't ignore it. That was the problem with humans. They didn't walk away. Not easily. Not when someone might still be alive. Ethan exhaled slowly. Prepare docking sequence. Lucas stared at him. You're serious? Yes. Ethan. That's an order. Silence. Lucas clenched his jaw, then turned back to the controls. Docking sequence initiated. The ship shifted, thrusters firing in controlled bursts as they aligned with the Virex hauler's open airlock. Closer. Closer. Too smooth. Too easy. No resistance, Lucas muttered. It's like, it wants us to dock clean. Ethan didn't respond. Because he felt it too. That creeping sensation crawling up his spine. The feeling that this wasn't chance. This wasn't coincidence. This was something else. Something deliberate. The docking clamps locked with a heavy thunk. A moment later, a soft hiss echoed through the ship as pressure equalized between the two vessels. Lucas didn't move. Last chance, he said quietly. We can still disengage. Ethan walked toward the airlock. Each step felt heavier than the last. It's still hungry. The whisper echoed again in his mind. He reached the control panel. Paused. For just a second. Then. He hit the release. The airlock door slid open with a long, metallic hiss. Darkness waited on the other side. Not empty darkness. Not silent darkness. Breathing darkness. Ethan froze. There it was. Faint. Slow. But unmistakable. Something inside the cargo bay was breathing. Lucas stepped up behind him, voice barely a whisper. Tell me you hear that. Ethan didn't answer. Because the sound changed. It got deeper. Heavier. Like something massive shifting its weight. Awake now. Aware. Waiting. Ethan tightened his grip on his weapon. And for the first time since he'd given the order, he felt it. Regret. Because the stories had been wrong. This ship didn't kill people. It didn't hunt them. It didn't chase. It did something far worse. It waited. And now, they had come to it. The cargo bay swallowed their light. Ethan stepped through the airlock first, boots landing with a dull metallic echo that seemed to travel far too deep into the ship. Lucas followed close behind, the beam from his rifle-mounted light cutting thin lines through the darkness. The air was wrong. Stale, but not dead. There was oxygen. There was circulation. But underneath it, something else lingered. A damp, metallic smell. Rotting. Breathing. Ethan raised a hand, signaling Lucas to stop. They listened. At first, nothing. Then, a slow, uneven inhale. Lucas's grip tightened on his weapon. That's not the ship. Ethan nodded slightly. No, it's not. The cargo bay stretched endlessly ahead of them, stacked with massive crates secured by heavy maglocks. Some had been torn open, not cleanly, but violently. Metal bent outward like something had forced its way inside. Or out. Stay close, Ethan murmured. They moved forward carefully, each step deliberate. Their lights flickered across the walls, and that's when Ethan saw the marks. Deep gouges carved into the steel. Long. Curved. Too wide to be tools. Lucas followed his gaze. Claws? Ethan didn't answer. Because he wasn't sure he wanted to. A faint sound broke the silence. A soft scrape. Both men froze. Movement. Lucas whispered. Ethan slowly raised his scanner, adjusting the sensitivity. For a moment, nothing. Then, a single, sharp beep. Lucas blinked. One life sign. Ethan frowned. That's impossible. Exactly. They scanned again. Same result. One. Only one. No clusters. No faint signals. No residual heat patterns. Just one. Could be a malfunction, Lucas said, though his voice lacked conviction. Ethan shook his head. Or it's real. Another sound echoed through the cargo bay. Not a scrape this time. A thud. Heavy. Distant. Lucas turned sharply toward the noise. That came from deeper inside. Ethan's voice lowered. We focus on the survivor. Assuming it is a survivor. Ethan didn't respond. Because he was thinking the same thing. They moved toward the signal, weaving through the towering cargo stacks. The shadows shifted strangely as they passed, their lights catching edges that seemed to move just a second too late. Like the darkness itself was adjusting. Watching. Waiting. The scanner beeped again, louder now. Close, Ethan said. They rounded a stack of broken crates, and stopped. A man sat slumped against the base of a container. Still. Too still. For a second, Lucas didn't breathe. Is he alive? Ethan said quietly, checking the scanner. Barely. The man's body was thin, emaciated almost to the point of collapse. His uniform hung loose, stained and torn. His skin was pale, stretched tight over bone. But his chest rose, fell, slowly. Ethan stepped forward, lowering his weapon slightly. "Hey," he called. "Can you hear me?" No response. Lucas stayed back, covering the shadows. "Be careful." Ethan crouched beside the man, reaching out cautiously. "You're safe now. We're here too." The man's eyes snapped open. Ethan jerked back instinctively. The movement was too fast. Too sharp. Those weren't the reactions of someone barely alive. The man's eyes locked onto Ethan's. Wide. Clear. Terrified. "You came?" the man rasped. His voice was dry, cracked, but unmistakably aware. Ethan steadied himself. "Yeah. We got your signal. We're here to get you out." The man let out a weak laugh. It didn't sound like relief. It sounded like something breaking. "Out?" he whispered. "There is no out." Lucas stepped closer, unease creeping into his voice. "What happened to your crew?" The man's gaze shifted past them. Into the darkness. "They're gone," he said. Ethan's jaw tightened. "Gone how?" The man swallowed slowly. "Then. I fed it." Silence. Lucas blinked. "You, what?" "I fed it," the man repeated, his voice trembling now. "At first, it took them. One by one. Slow. Curious." A distant sound echoed through the ship. Another thud. Closer this time. Lucas turned toward it instantly. That again. Ethan didn't look away from the man. "Fed what?" The survivor's hand shot out suddenly, gripping Ethan's arm with surprising strength. Ethan stiffened. The man pulled himself closer, his face inches away. "You don't understand," he whispered urgently. "It doesn't kill fast. It learns you first." A cold chill ran down Ethan's spine. "Learns what?" he asked. The man's lips trembled. "How long you last," he said. "How much you can give before you break." Lucas stepped back slightly. "Captain. I don't like this." Another sound. Not a thud this time. A scrape. Long. Heavy. Dragging across metal. Much closer now. The man's grip tightened. "It was hungry," he said, his voice dropping to a terrified whisper. "Always hungry." Ethan's pulse quickened. "What is it?" The man's eyes filled with something worse than fear. Recognition. "It waits," he said. Lucas turned sharply. "For what?" The man's expression shifted. Slowly. Into something that didn't belong on a human face. A smile. Not relief. Not hope. Something broken. Something wrong. "For you," he said softly. The lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then dimmed slightly. Ethan stood up immediately, pulling his arm free. "We're leaving. Now." Lucas didn't argue. He grabbed the survivor under one arm, hauling him up despite his weak protests. "I can walk," the man muttered, though his legs trembled beneath him. "Save it," Lucas snapped. "You're getting off this ship." They turned toward the exit. And froze. The shadows ahead shifted. Not like light. Not like normal movement. But like something large had just moved between them and the airlock. Ethan slowly raised his weapon. "Did you see that?" Lucas whispered. "Yes." The man let out a quiet, shaky laugh. "You shouldn't have come," he said. Ethan didn't take his eyes off the darkness. "Why not?" The man's voice dropped to a whisper. "Because now." Another scrape echoed. Right in front of them. Heavy. Deliberate. And something massive shifted just beyond the reach of their lights. The man's smile widened slightly. "It knows you're here." The breathing sound returned. Louder now. Deeper. Filling the cargo bay. Not hidden anymore. Not distant. Close. Too close. Lucas's voice shook. "Captain." Ethan tightened his grip on his weapon. "Move," he said. But neither of them took a step. Because the darkness ahead moved first. They ran. Not because they saw it clearly. But because something inside them, something ancient and instinctive, screamed that staying still meant dying. "Move, move." Lucas shouted, dragging the survivor along as they sprinted between the cargo stacks. Behind them. A sound. Not fast. Not frantic. Slow. Heavy. Like something enormous choosing not to rush. That was worse. Ethan glanced back once, and instantly wished he hadn't. A shape shifted in the darkness. Too large. Too wrong. It didn't chase like a predator. It followed like it already knew the outcome. Left. Ethan barked. They turned sharply into a narrow corridor branching off the cargo bay. The walls here were tighter, the ceiling lower, barely enough for cargo transport units. Lucas slammed his hand against the emergency panel as they passed. Ceiling bulkhead. A heavy metal door began to slide down behind them. Faster. Faster. Slam. The bulkhead shut with a thunderous crash, locking into place. For a moment. Silence. All three of them stood there, breathing hard. Lucas leaned against the wall, chest heaving. Tell me that thing can't get through that. Ethan didn't answer. He was listening. Waiting. Seconds passed. Then. A soft sound. On the other side of the door. A scrape. Metal flexing. Lucas's face went pale. No. The steel bulkhead dented inward. Just slightly. But enough. Enough to prove something was pressing against it. Not striking. Not attacking. Just. Testing. Ethan grabbed Lucas's shoulder. It's not trying to break through. Then what is it doing? Lucas hissed. Ethan swallowed. It's learning. The word hung heavy between them. The survivor let out a weak chuckle from where he leaned against the wall. I told you, he murmured. It learns everything. Ethan turned sharply. Start talking. Now. The man looked up at him, eyes hollow. There's no time. Another dent appeared in the bulkhead. Slower this time. More precise. Lucas stepped back. We need another route. Ethan nodded. This way. They moved quickly down the corridor, turning into a maintenance passage that sloped deeper into the ship. The air grew thicker. Warmer. The smell. Stronger. Rot. Decay. Something that had been left too long in the dark. Lucas gagged. God, what is that? Ethan didn't answer. Because they were about to find out. They entered a wider chamber. And stopped. The floor was covered. Not in blood. Not in bodies. But in something worse. Clothes. Boots. Tools. Personal items scattered everywhere like the remains of people who had simply vanished out of them. Lucas stared, horrified. Where are the bodies? Ethan stepped forward slowly, scanning the area. No signs of struggle, he said quietly. No impact marks. No burn damage. No. He stopped. Lucas followed his gaze. The walls. Deep grooves carved into the metal, circling the room. Layer upon layer. As if something had been pacing. Waiting. Containing. This wasn't an attack, Ethan said slowly. Lucas shook his head. Then what was it? Ethan's stomach tightened. A holding area. The survivor laughed again. Weak. Broken. Yes, he whispered. We stayed here, together, at first. Lucas turned on him. You stayed? Why didn't you leave? The man's smile twitched. Because it didn't let us. A low sound echoed through the corridor behind them. Not loud. Not aggressive. But present. Lucas spun toward it. It's coming. Ethan raised his weapon instinctively. But something felt wrong. The sound wasn't a charge. It wasn't pursuit. It was measured. Steady. Like footsteps that didn't need to hurry. Ethan's mind raced. It's not chasing us, he said. Lucas stared at him. What do you mean it's not chasing us? Ethan's voice dropped. It's hurting us. Silence. Lucas blinked. Into what? The answer came from the survivor. Into where it wants you, he said softly. Ethan turned back to him. Why? The man's eyes filled with dread. Because it knows something you don't. Another sound. Closer now. A shadow stretched along the corridor wall. Long. Distorted. Moving. Lucas raised his weapon, hands shaking. I'm not waiting for that thing to decide. Wait, Ethan snapped. Lucas froze. Are you insane? Ethan didn't look away from the shadow. Think, he said. If it wanted us dead, we already would be. Lucas hesitated. Because he knew Ethan was right. The creature had been close enough. Multiple times. And yet, they were still alive. The survivor's voice trembled. That's the worst part. Ethan glanced at him. What is? The man swallowed hard. It doesn't want you dead. A heavy step echoed from the corridor. Closer. The shadow shifted again. Larger now. More defined. Lucas's voice dropped to a whisper. Then what does it want? Ethan's pulse pounded in his ears. He thought about the room. The clothes. The lack of bodies. The pacing marks. The waiting. And then, the survivor's words came back. I fed it. Ethan's stomach dropped. No, he muttered. Lucas looked at him. What? Ethan slowly lowered his weapon. What if it didn't hunt them? He said. Lucas frowned. Then how did they die? Ethan's voice felt heavy. What if it taught them? The corridor fell silent. Even the creature's steps paused. As if listening. Lucas shook his head. Taught them what? Ethan didn't want to say it. But he knew. He could feel it. The truth settling into place like a lock clicking shut. Taught them to feed it. A long, low sound echoed from the darkness. Not anger. Not hunger. Something deeper. Something almost satisfied. The shadow reached the edge of the chamber. And for the first time, they saw it clearly. Lucas's breath caught in his throat. Ethan didn't move. Because standing there, half hidden in the dim light, was something that should not exist. Too large for the corridor. Limbs bending in ways that made no sense. A body that seemed to shift even as they looked at it. Like it hadn't decided what shape it wanted yet. And its face, if it had one, moved. Slowly. Trying. Changing. Learning. Watching them. The survivor whispered behind them. Don't run. Lucas's voice cracked. Why not? The man's answer was barely audible. Because now, it's waiting to see what you'll do. The creature tilted its head. And took one slow step forward. Not attacking. Not rushing. Just waiting. For them to choose. The creature did not lunge. It did not roar. It did not attack. It simply stood there in the corridor, filling the space like it had always belonged there and the ship had simply grown around it. Ethan kept his weapon raised, but his finger felt distant from the trigger, like the act itself no longer made sense. Lucas stood frozen beside him, breathing shallow, eyes locked on the impossible shape ahead. The creature shifted. Not forward. Not backward. Just adjusting. As if it was trying to fit itself into a version of reality it still didn't fully understand. Then it made a sound. Not a growl. Not a scream. A soft, uneven echo, like a voice attempting a shape it had never fully learned. Lucas took a half step back. It's communicating? Ethan didn't answer immediately. Because he was watching something worse. The creature wasn't just making sound. It was trying patterns. Repeating tones. Testing rhythm. Like it had heard language before, and was now rebuilding it from broken memory. Behind them, the survivor let out a weak, broken laugh. Don't, he whispered. Don't let it learn you. Lucas snapped his head toward him. What does that mean? The survivor shook his head slowly. It watches. It listens. It copies. Ethan finally lowered his weapon slightly, not in surrender, but in confusion. Copies what? The survivor's eyes flicked to the creature. Everything. The corridor lights flickered again. The creature tilted its head further, as if the change in light itself was interesting. Then it did something that made Lucas's blood run cold. It stepped back. Just one step. Not retreating in fear. But giving space. Inviting reaction. Ethan felt it then. Not fear exactly. Something heavier. Understanding. This isn't hunting behavior, Ethan said quietly. Lucas's voice trembled. Then what is it? Ethan stared at the creature. It's observation. The word landed like a stone. The survivor nodded weakly. At first, it killed without pattern. Random. Fast. Slow. But then it started, stopping. Lucas shook his head. Stopping? Watching, the survivor corrected. Learning what we do before we die. A distant metallic groan echoed through the ship. Not from the creature. From deeper within the structure. As if the ship itself was responding. The creature turned its head slightly toward the sound, then back to them. Curious. Always curious. Ethan's mind raced. If it learns, he said slowly, then it adapts. The survivor's expression tightened. Yes. Lucas swallowed hard. So why are we still alive? Silence. Even the creature seemed to pause at the question. Then the survivor spoke softly. Because humans are different. Ethan looked at him sharply. Different how? The survivor's voice cracked. You don't just survive, he said. You share. Lucas frowned. Share what? The survivor laughed again, quiet, broken, almost hysterical. Everything. The creature took another step. Closer. Slow. measured. But still not attacking. Ethan felt something shift in his chest. A realization forming. No, he muttered. Lucas looked at him. What? Ethan's grip tightened on his weapon again, but this time not to fire. To hold himself steady. It didn't learn violence from us, Ethan said. The survivor nodded faintly. It learned generosity. Lucas stared. That's insane. Ethan didn't look away from the creature. Is it? The creature made another sound. This time softer. Almost questioning. The survivor's voice dropped. We were starving. Silence. The corridor seemed to tighten around the words. We were dying, he continued. Air running out. Food gone. Systems failing. One by one, we started choosing. Lucas shook his head. Choosing what? The survivor looked at Ethan. Who would be fed to it? The words hit like a physical blow. Lucas stepped back. You're lying. The survivor shook his head. We thought it would kill us anyway. So we organized it. Sacrifices. Rotations. We called it survival. Ethan felt something cold spread through him. And it accepted, he asked quietly. The survivor nodded. It learned. The creature shifted again. Not aggressive. Not confused. Acknowledging. Ethan exhaled slowly. It didn't take victims, he said. You gave them. The survivor closed his eyes. Yes. Lucas looked between them. So it's not a monster. It's just repeating what you taught it. Ethan didn't answer immediately. Because that was the terrifying part. It wasn't just repeating. It was improving. The creature tilted its head again. Then. It spoke. Not words. Not yet. But sound structured differently now. More deliberate. More intentional. Lucas took another step back. It's getting closer to speech. The survivor whispered, it's deciding. Ethan's voice was low. Deciding what? The creature took one more step forward. And this time, it did not stop. The corridor lights flickered violently. For a brief moment, Ethan saw something behind the shifting form. Not teeth. Not claws. But motion. Hands. Gestures. Imitation of something almost human. Then the lights stabilized again. And the creature was still there. Closer. Too close. Lucas raised his weapon slightly, instinct overriding fear. Captain. Ethan didn't respond. He was thinking. Because something didn't add up. If it learned from you, Ethan said slowly, why didn't it kill you all immediately? The survivor hesitated. For the first time, he looked afraid in a different way. Because, he whispered, we taught it something else too. Lucas's voice cracked. What else? The survivor's lips trembled. That feeding is kindness. A long silence followed. Even the creature stopped moving. As if listening. As if remembering. Ethan felt the truth settle in fully now. This wasn't a predator. Not anymore. Not just. It was a student. And humanity had been its teacher. The creature made one final sound. Soft. Almost gentle. Then it waited. Not for prey. Not for fear. But for response. For the next lesson. And in that moment, Ethan Ward realized the truth that made his stomach turn cold. They weren't being hunted. They were being evaluated. The creature waited. Not looming. Not attacking. Not even advancing anymore. Just waiting. As if the entire corridor had become a classroom, and humanity had finally been placed back into its own lesson. Ethan's grip on his weapon felt distant now, like it belonged to someone else. Lucas stood rigid beside him, breath shallow, eyes locked on the impossible shape that had learned too much. Behind them, the survivor began to tremble. Not from pain. From recognition. It's deciding, he whispered. Lucas snapped his head around. Deciding what? The survivor didn't answer immediately. Because the creature moved again. Slowly. Deliberately. It tilted its shifting head, studying them in a way that felt almost clinical now. The chaos of its form was settling, edges less random, movements more intentional. Like a sketch becoming a shape. Like something learning to be consistent. Ethan felt it in his gut. It wasn't just adapting anymore. It was understanding structure. Captain, Lucas said quietly, voice strained. Tell me you have a plan. Ethan didn't. Because every instinct he had told him the same thing. This thing wasn't a predator in the way anything else was. It was a reflection. And reflections only showed what was already there. The survivor laughed softly again. You don't get it, do you? Lucas turned on him sharply. Get what? The man looked up, eyes hollow. We didn't just survive it, he said. We trained it. Silence. Even the creature paused at that. Ethan's voice was low. Trained it into what? The survivor swallowed hard. Into us. The words landed like a rupture. Lucas shook his head. That's impossible. But even as he said it, his eyes flicked back to the creature. Because it wasn't behaving like an animal anymore. It wasn't random. It wasn't instinctive. It was structured. It mirrored hesitation. It mirrored observation. It mirrored decision-making. Ethan took a slow breath. No, he said quietly. He's right. Lucas stared at him. What are you talking about? Ethan didn't look away from the creature. It learned from humans under pressure, he said. Limited resources. Fear. Survival conditions. His voice tightened. And humans optimized behavior under those conditions. The survivor nodded faintly. Yes. Lucas looked between them, panic rising. You're saying it's copying survival strategy? Ethan's expression darkened. I'm saying it learned the worst possible version of us. The creature made a sound again. But now, it wasn't random anymore. It was structured. 2 tones. Pause. 1 tone. Repeat. Lucas froze. That's not just imitation. Ethan nodded slowly. It's forming syntax. The creature stepped forward again. And this time, it stopped exactly 2 meters away. Perfect distance. Intentional distance. Not aggression. Not hesitation. Measurement. The survivor whispered, it never came closer than this before. Lucas raised his weapon slightly again, hands shaking. I don't care what it learned. We end it here. Ethan stopped him with a firm hand on his arm. No. Lucas snapped. No? It's right there. Ethan's voice was steady, but heavy. If we shoot it, he said, we confirm the only lesson it hasn't finished testing yet. Lucas froze. What lesson? Ethan looked at the creature. And for the first time, he saw something new. Not hunger. Not aggression. Not curiosity. Expectation. It thinks, Ethan said slowly, that every interaction ends in exchange. The survivor closed his eyes. Yes. Lucas shook his head. Exchange of what? The survivor answered quietly. Value. Silence filled the corridor again. The creature tilted its head slightly, as if listening to that word. Value. Ethan felt something sink in his chest. You gave it that idea, he said. The survivor nodded. We had to. Lucas's voice cracked. Had to do what? The survivor's eyes opened again. Survive. A distant sound echoed through the ship again. Not the creature this time. The ship itself. Metal shifting. Systems reacting. As if the vessel was no longer just a structure, but an environment responding to something inside it. The creature turned slightly toward the sound. Then back to them. It made another sound. But this one was different. Not imitation. Not repetition. Something closer to intention. Lucas stepped back slowly. It's talking. Ethan's jaw tightened. It's proposing. Lucas looked at him sharply. Proposing what? The survivor whispered the answer before Ethan could. A choice. The creature extended one limb slightly. Not attacking. Not grabbing. Offering. Ethan felt his mind strain under the weight of it. Because it wasn't random anymore. It wasn't feeding. It wasn't hunting. It was negotiating. Lucas shook his head, voice breaking. We don't negotiate with that thing. Ethan didn't respond immediately. Because something in him hesitated. Not fear. Not instinct. Understanding. What if, Ethan said slowly, we already did? Silence. The survivor's expression tightened. The creature waited. Still. Patient. Ethan exhaled. It learned that humans survive by distributing loss, he said. By deciding who pays cost. Lucas whispered, that's not survival. That's humanity, Ethan finished. The words hung heavy. The creature made another sound. Then. It stepped back. Just slightly. Not retreat. Adjustment. As if recalibrating expectations. Lucas frowned. Why is it backing away? The survivor's voice was barely audible. Because it's testing something new. Ethan's stomach tightened. What? The survivor looked at him. Refusal. The creature made no move for several seconds. Then, it shifted. Slowly. And for the first time, it didn't imitate. It initiated. A new sound formed. Broken. Incomplete. But different. Not copied. Created. Lucas's breath caught. It's learning language. Ethan nodded faintly. Yes. The creature repeated the sound. Then paused. Waiting. Ethan realized something then. It wasn't just observing anymore. It was asking. Not for food. Not for fear. But for instruction. And humanity had already answered once. The wrong way. The survivor whispered, if you don't answer it. Lucas shook his head. We don't answer it. Ethan stayed silent. Because he understood the cost. Whatever they chose now would become part of it. The creature waited. Perfectly still. For the next lesson.